Hey designers, let's create this animation in After Effects. We will make the entire animation in After Effects without using any plugins. We're going to create these buildings and the whole illustration in After Effects, then animate everything right here. It's going to be a detailed, step-by-step tutorial. Let's get started. Start by selecting the Rectangle tool and drawing a rectangle. Make sure the anchor point is centered by pressing Ctrl and double-clicking the Anchor Point tool to center it. Now, rename this layer to Building. Make sure no layer is selected, then select the Rectangle tool again and draw a smaller rectangle, which will be the window. Duplicate this rectangle by pressing Ctrl+D, creating a duplicate in the same shape layer. Move the duplicate to the right. Now, select both rectangles, press Ctrl+D again to duplicate them, and move the duplicates downward. You've now created a full window. Let's add color to the building by giving it a dark blue color. Select the window layer and apply a color to it as well. Place it on top of the building like this. To add more windows, select the shape layer, press Ctrl+D to duplicate it, and move the duplicate to the right. Let's give this duplicated window layer a different color. Now, duplicate the first shape layer again by selecting it and pressing Ctrl+D on the keyboard. Move this layer all the way to the right side. Once that's done, let's adjust the position of all the buildings and align them. We have 3 windows on each building. Now, select 3 of these buildings and press Ctrl+D to duplicate them, then move the duplicated layers downward using your keyboard, just like I'm doing. This will create the windows below. Next, we need another set of these windows. Select all of the window layers and press Ctrl+D to duplicate them. Move all of these duplicated layers downward. Now that our windows are complete, let's change their colors. We'll give a few of them a yellowish color to indicate that the lights in those rooms are turned on. Let's vary the colors, some windows will be lit, and some will be darker. Adjust the colors as needed. If you want to give a different color to one set, first select it, then go to the shape layer and navigate to the contents. Here, you will see the 4 rectangles. Change the color of a few of them if you want. For example, let's make some of them a bit darker. Copy the color code and paste it onto rectangle 1 as well. This will add more detail to your design. Repeat this with a few other windows, giving them a mix of light and dark colors to bring the design to life. I'm not fast-forwarding this, I'm showing you everything step by step so you won't get confused. I know some of you are beginners, while others are more experienced, so I'm catering to everyone. Please bear with me if you already know how this is done. After finishing the yellow windows, let's add some variety to the dark windows as well. Make a few of them a bit darker than the others. Now that all of this is done, let's add a few more details to the building layer. Select the building layer, ensuring it is active, draw a rectangle shape on the top and a few shapes to create the illusion of the top area of the building. Now our design is complete. We will duplicate these layers for the other buildings, so most of our work is done. Select all of these layers and pre-compose them. Name it Building 1. In this pre-composed layer, there's a lot of width in the composition, so let's reduce it. Go to Composition, then Composition Settings, and reduce the width to match the building size. Now place the building inside this composition. Once that's done, go back to the main composition. This is the building pre-composed layer. We will duplicate this pre-composed layer by selecting it and pressing Ctrl+D on the keyboard. Move this duplicated layer to the left side and adjust its position. Again, duplicate it and adjust its position. Increase the width of the building on the right side and transform it by flipping it horizontally. Adjust the position as needed. Let's duplicate the building a few more times. Select the building and press Ctrl+D to duplicate it again. Scale it down, playing with the position and scaling of these buildings to create the appearance of multiple buildings in the scene. Let's duplicate the larger building as well, scale it down, move it to the bottom, and place this layer below all the other layers. I think this is enough for our buildings. Next, let's apply brightness and contrast to them. Go to Effects and Presets, search for Brightness and Contrast, and apply it to the building that is furthest away. Increase the contrast to make it darker. Select this brightness and contrast effect and press Ctrl+C to copy it. Then, select the next building and press Ctrl+V to paste it. Increase the contrast a bit more. Now, select the next building and press Ctrl+V to paste the effect again. Here, we will reduce the contrast and increase the brightness slightly. You can also apply this to other layers if needed. For the next building, apply brightness and contrast as well, increasing the brightness and reducing the contrast. Now that we're done with this, let's create a few rectangles for the background to make it look like there are more distant buildings. Give these shapes a very dark blue color and randomize their shapes. Use the rectangle tool to randomly draw shapes as shown on the screen. Select this layer and move it all the way to the bottom. If we solo this layer, it will look like this. Adjust the positioning of this background building layer as necessary. Next, take the ellipse tool and draw a shape for the moon. Create a circle and give it a white color. Rename this layer to Moon and move it below all the other layers. Make the moon layer solo. Go to Effects and Presets and search for the glow effect. Apply the glow to this moon layer and increase the radius and intensity. Set color A to white and color B to a bluish tone. Change the glow colors from the original colors to A and B colors, giving it a lighter shade of blue for a better appearance. Now search for Gaussian blur in effects and presets and apply it to the moon as well. Increase the amount of blur. This is how it looks now. Unsolo this layer. Let's increase the glow radius and the glow intensity. Now, let's create a new solid. Go to Layer, select New, and then Solid. Name it BG and press OK. Move this layer below all the other layers, this will serve as the background layer. Go to Effects and Presets, search for Gradient Ramp, and apply it to the solid layer. Set it to a radial ramp, with the start color as a shade of blue and the end color as a darker shade of blue. Adjust the colors if needed. Perfect. Now go to Layer and create a new solid again. Make this solid layer solo. Go to Effects and Presets and search for CC Particle World. Go to Physics and set the velocity to 0 and gravity to 0 as well. Close the physics properties, then go to Particle and change the particle type to star. Set the birth color to white and the death color to light blue. Next, go to Producer and increase the radius X, radius Y, and radius Z, decrease the birth rate to 0.1. Now, go to Particles and change the birth size to 0.1 and the death size to 0.1 as well. This is how it looks now. Let's decrease the birth size and death size even more. Move this layer below all the other layers except for the BG layer. Also, move the moon layer below all the other layers except for BG, placing the moon below the stars. Adjust the position of the moon by moving it a bit downward. Now your illustration is complete. Let's animate it. To keep things organized, let's rename the layers so we know which building is which. Rename the first building to Building B1. The second building to B2. The third building to B3. The fourth building to B4. And the fifth building to B5. Now that all of these layers are renamed, select all of them and make them 3D, except for the background layer. Change the camera view from active camera to top to see how it looks from above. Now, we will adjust the Z position of the layers, starting with the moon. Move the moon layer to the back by adjusting its Z position. Next, adjust the Z position of the stars layer, followed by the background building, and then all the other buildings. Change the Z position of these buildings accordingly. Once you have adjusted the Z positions, switch the view back to active camera. You might notice that the layers appear slightly moved, but don't worry. You'll need to adjust the position of the buildings one by one. Some of them may require scaling up, so let's start with the first building. Adjust its Y position, then move to the second building and adjust both its Y and X positions. Continue this process, selecting each building and fine-tuning their positions as needed. Take your time adjusting the position and scale of all elements on the screen. After that, select the BG building and press S for scale to scale it up. Adjust its position as necessary. Next, select the stars layer, press S for scale, and scale it up as well. Finally, select the moon layer, press S for scale, and adjust its scale and position if required. Now let's create a new camera layer. Go to Layer, then New, and select Camera. Press OK. Right-click on the camera layer, go to Camera, and choose Create Orbital Camera. We will animate this camera now. Press P for position and Shift+R for rotation. Click on the stopwatch next to position first, then move the time indicator all the way to the last frame and adjust the Z and X positions to your liking. After adjusting, go back to the first frame and refine the positioning as needed. Return to the last frame and adjust the X and Y rotation as well. Click on the stopwatch next to Y rotation, move back to the last frame, and adjust the Y rotation accordingly. Make any additional position adjustments if required. Now, come back to the first frame to preview the animation. Once that's done, select the moon layer and press P for position. Click on the stopwatch next to position. Move the time indicator to the last frame and adjust the moon's position to the top by tweaking the Z position. Move it a bit closer and upward by adjusting the Y position. Finally, return to the first frame and move the moon slightly downward so that it appears to be moving above the scene. Preview the animation to see how it looks so far. Now, let's add more detail using the ellipse tool. Draw an ellipse and give it a purple color. Go to Effects and Presets, search for Gaussian Blur, and apply it to this layer. Increase the Gaussian blur amount, ensuring the Repeat Edge Pixels option is unchecked. Change the layer mode from normal to color burn, and adjust the position and transformation of the ellipse as it will serve as a blending color. Next, duplicate this ellipse by pressing Ctrl+D on your keyboard and move it to the right side. Position it as desired. Now, duplicate it again, Ctrl+D, and place it in another area, adjusting the position as needed. Duplicate once more, rotate it using the rotation tool. And place it at the bottom of your composition. For this last duplicate, change the blending mode to color burn or multiply, depending on what looks best with your design. Finally, duplicate it one more time and place it somewhere else, changing the blending mode to overlay. Now, your animation is complete. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please like, comment, and don't forget to subscribe to Ace Designs.